Would you like to experience fast, explosive growth in your business? Just imagine getting a month's worth of income in one single day. Would that be valuable to you? How would that change your life and the lives of your children, your family, your loved ones? And these are thoughts to keep in mind during this episode. We're going to be focusing on how you can eliminate the number one inner enemy that might be holding you back from achieving the explosive growth and impact you are meant to be making in the world. This number one enemy we're calling perfectionism. That inner enemy that keeps slowing you down, thereby slowing down the results in your business. I'm awesome Angie Engstrom, honoring the awesomeness in you.
And I'm Gitte Odgaard. Perfectionism. I could just talk about this subject for hours because I used to struggle so much with perfectionism. And to be honest, I still have to keep the monster at bay. But now I've sort of learned to control it a lot better. And in this episode, we'll be sharing our best tips for kicking perfectionism to the curb. Now, I like to call myself a recovering perfectionist with a few relapses, now and then. So I'm curious, Angie, does wrestling with perfectionism sound familiar to you too?
Yeah, and if we're using the definition of perfectionism as not knowing when enough is enough when we're working on a project, then yeah, I've wrestled with this at times in my life. For example, like say you reread a post for or an email for the 100th time to check that it's perfect before you put it out there. Or maybe when you just keep making small adjustments to your offer or your funnel, because you want it to be absolutely perfect before you let anybody even see it. So yeah, I know I've done it too. How about you, Geety?
I hate to admit it, Angie, but yes, I definitely have. Like when you keep making endless revisions and you're hesitant to go live, or it could be hesitant to launching your new offer because it's not perfect yet, at least according to your standards. And maybe you even passed up potential new business opportunities due to fear of not being perfect at the task at hand. When you start thinking thoughts like it could be, am I good enough to do this? Or it could be, do I have enough experience and knowledge? Or maybe even, who am I to talk about or perhaps even teach about this subject? Because there are a lot of people out there who have more experience than me. Those kind of feelings. Have you ever thought that or felt that?
Yeah, or maybe like say you're going live on Facebook, but because you want your message to be perfect because before you share it with the world, you're procrastinating going live on Facebook. Yeah, the feeling when you just start thinking that your video just needs to be perfect too, with perfect lighting, perfect sound, for you ladies, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect clothes. Does that sound familiar? So you're procrastinating going live because of all these things of trying to be perfect. Or it could be that you end up burning the midnight oil all too often because you spend too much time, attending to every little detail, making sure everything's just perfect on whatever it is you're working on. This unfortunately leaves you with less time to spend with your family and your loved ones, and not exactly the scenario you were hoping for, right?
Nope. It can also be that you're postponing launching a new product or an offer because it isn't quite perfect yet. But here's a news flash for you because the world isn't waiting for your perfect offer. It's waiting for you, the way you deliver your product, and the value only you can provide in your own very unique way. So instead of perfecting everything, you need to start taking fast, imperfect action.
Now, the funny thing is that as business owners, we often aim for perfection, thinking it's the key to success when it's actually not. And instead, we have to focus on taking fast and perfect action. That's what business owners do. And don't get us wrong, striving for excellence is fantastic. And we all need to deliver value and great products to our clients. But the problem arises when perfectionism becomes the roadblock. to growing your business or getting a task done or whatever it is, and it's slowing down your progress.
And that's exactly why you need to toss perfectionism to the side and instead you need to start taking fast, imperfect action. Because the truth is that perfection, it's just an illusion. And what really matters, it's not perfection, it's progress.
Very true.
This reminds me of the Pareto Principle. I don't know if you heard about it, but using the Pareto Principle as a premise, 20% of our efforts actually gives us 80% of the results in a business. So according to this principle, if you are a perfectionist, a whopping 80% of your time gets consumed by perfectionism, thereby hindering scaling and progress. Whoa, that's pretty astounding, right? Big numbers. And that's exactly why you need to start taking fast, imperfect action.
Fast and perfect action. Yes. So just imagine reclaiming that 80% of your time. What would you spend 80% of your time doing if you didn't have to worry about being perfect all the time? How would that impact the results you're getting in your business? And how would it affect the amount of free time you could spend with your family and kids?
Mm, absolutely mind blowing, Angie. So thank you so much for sort of putting this into perspective. So you need to go ahead and take fast, imperfect action. The truth is that you're actually mismanaging your business and your time when you keep perfecting everything. Because the truth is that it's holding you back from achieving the results in your business that you truly want and you could definitely have. Like, did you know that decisiveness is a hallmark of successful individuals? To put it in the words of Napoleon Hill, successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly.
Let's repeat that. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. So powerful. So, if you've been perfecting, it's time to stop it, stop perfecting, and start taking fast, imperfect action. Now, at the beginning of the podcast, we promised to share our best, easy to implement tips for getting rid of perfectionism, kicking it to the curb. So, here's our best tips. Tip number one: a great way to eliminate getting lost in hours of perfection is to set a specific time limit for doing a task. And that way, you prevent overthinking and excessive refining, thereby helping you prioritize efficiency and productivity over perfection. A practical method for implementing this is using a timer. This means that when the time is up, you have to stop working on what you were doing and just move on to the next task.
Sorry to interrupt, Angie, but I just gotta say this. This actually works great in our business because it prevents us from spending hours on things that should only take perhaps 30 minutes. We just put on the timer.
Exactly. It definitely helps, just to take fast and perfect action.
Okay, so our first tip for kicking perfectionism to the curb is using a timer. And our second tip is it's psychological and it's related to the fear of making mistakes. Because sometimes we spend a lot of time perfecting things because we're afraid of making mistakes. I know I do, and perhaps you also recognize this feeling. Like, I used to keep rereading every post, every email, every funnel, just basically all the copy I wrote. I used to reread it over and over and over again and just making these tiny little adjustments every time. That feeling when you're checking it for the 100th time to check if it's just perfect? Yeah, I know. And it takes forever. So, in order to eliminate the fear of making mistakes, I challenge you to start making tiny, small mistakes that won't really matter. It could be something like a slight inconsistency in the color schemes or the fonts that you use on your social media post, or it could be making an occasional spelling error in non-critical communication, like it could be an email, or perhaps it could be responding to non-urgent emails a bit later than you usually do. Now, if you're wondering why making deliberate mistakes can help you overcome perfectionism, the answer is that it will train your brain to realize that making mistakes, it isn't that big of a deal. And that realization in turn will make it a lot easier for you to start taking that fast imperfect action.
Yeah. So let's recap so far. We have tip number one, use a timer. Tip number two is eliminating the fear of making mistakes by allowing small mistakes that don't matter. And so our last tip is to keep your focus on the core elements in your business. So start out this process by identifying and focusing on those strategic elements in your business that will contribute most significantly to the outcomes you desire. Prioritizing your time and efforts on those core elements will help you focus on what truly matters, thereby minimizing the risk of perfectionism taking over. A great tip for staying focused on the core elements of your business is to delegate the non critical tasks to other team members or perhaps a virtual assistant.
Mm, absolutely. It will help you take that fast imperfect action. Okay, so let me just sum up our three best tips for kicking perfectionism to the curb. Using a timer, eliminating the fear of making mistakes by making small, tiny mistakes that don't really matter, and prioritizing your time and efforts on the core elements of your business and just delegating the rest.
There you have it. Kick perfectionism to the curb. So, thanks for listening to Momentum Maker Podcast. Keep your momentum, keep moving forward. And if you happen to be a course creator, business owner, or influencer spending too much time selling one on one, and you are ready to condense time and sell one to many, then open up a tab on your browser and go to elitevirtualstages.com/report and learn how you can turn your expertise into 6 or even 7 figure days using live transformational virtual masterclasses.